TEX Exchange. And here's your host, Sanjana Basu.
Good evening, everybody. Before we begin, I just want to direct your attention to the nearest exits. In case of a fire, please make your way down through one of these doors. I would also now request you to turn off or silence your cell phones. Thank you all for being here tonight, and welcome to our third ever TEX Exchange. We're extremely excited to provide you with an evening packed with awesome, amazing ideas. TEX Exchange, or TEX, is a TED-style forum that is aimed at fostering intellectual exchange outside the classroom by stimulating your imagination and appealing to the broadest range of interests possible. Our objective is to create an environment for collaboration where the most innovative ideas amongst us all can thrive and spread. The story of TEX is actually one of such collaboration between two student groups, the Institute for Global Leadership Synaptic Scholars Program and One World. We came together as a TEX team to create a platform for us students and professors here at Tufts to share the most exciting, brilliant, and diverse ideas that exist amongst us all. So tonight we're going to have 7 speakers, each of whom will speak for 8 to 10 minutes. And we hope that you leave tonight engaged, inspired, challenged, and energized. So without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker, Professor David Coleman. Professor David Coleman is a lecturer for music and the director of gospel choir here at Tufts. He's also the director of music at the Dana Hall School. I am sure that most of you know about Professor Coleman's popular gospel choir class, and I know most of his students can attest to the fact that they're continually inspired by his words and music. We hope he can inspire you too. Thank you.
So, is my microphone on? Yes? Can you all hear me? Yes. Very good. My name is David Coleman, and I stand before you tonight a transformed man, transformed by the power of words. Words that were said to me over time that shaped my life in a positive way, but there are a lot of sayings that are told to us in our lives that are untrue. One of them is that sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt us. I lost my microphone. I don't know who invented that phrase, but I do know that it is not true. It's something that parents tell their children so that they don't cry when someone calls them a name in school. However, the truth is that when someone says something negative to you, not only does it hurt, sticks and stones may break your bones, but bones will heal. Words can have an effect on you that'll change your whole life for the worse and can haunt you forever. I'll give you one quick example. If you get dressed up out to come talk to a bunch of people at night and you wear your best blue shirt and black pants, and someone says, and 100 people say, Professor Coleman, you look great tonight. But one person goes, that looks really bad. That's the report that I'm going to take with me when I go home tonight. I'm not going to remember the compliments. I'm going to remember the bad thing that was said to me. If you do a concert, someone, I loved your concert, but then one person comes to you, I have a question or an issue with what you did tonight. The criticism is all that I'll remember. Words have a powerful effect. And of course, billions and billions of words are said to us throughout the course of our lifetime, most of which go in one ear and right out the other. Teachers talk at us like I'm talking at you right now, and most of what I'm saying to you may not register in your brain. However, I came to tell you tonight a quick little story about 10 phrases that shaped and transformed my life for the better. The first one being from my mother. Now, never smoke. This was said to me when I was about 6 years old. My mother was a chain smoker. And while she was sitting in the living room one day with a friend smoking, I came up to her and I said, what are you doing? And she said, well, we're smoking. And I said, well, what's that like? And she said, well, here, have one. 6 years old. I took a drag of the cigarette, and after coughing my lungs out, my mother looked at me right in the eyes and said, now, never smoke. I never smoked after that. I stand before you today 35 years later, and I have never smoked a cigarette. Now, is it just that incident that made me never smoke again? No. But it is significant, and you'll find out later why. The next thing was also from my mother. Same age, same woman. She was pouring a drink for herself, and I said, "What's that?" She said, "Whiskey." I said, "What's that taste like?" She said, "Oh, here, have some." And so after scraping my tongue of the substance off of my tongue and having my mouth be on fire, she looked me right in the eyes and said, "Now, never drink." I did not take my first alcoholic beverage until I was 22 years old. Not even after I turned 21 did I want to take a drink after that negative experience that I had. Do I think that this is effective for every kid? Absolutely not. Do I think it's a good thing to do? Probably not. However, like I said, words don't necessarily have to mean exactly what they mean at the time, and they don't have to sink in at the time that it happens. I do believe that three things have to take place. It has to be something easy to remember for the words to work. It has to be something where the person looks you directly in the eyes so for you to remember the memory. And it also had to be an action to take place to go along with it for it to have this effect. As both of these examples happen that way. Number three. Scary Man. I didn't know his name, but when I was younger, I used to be on a swim team, and there were handball courts in the university complex where I swam. And the handball courts required you to get on your hands and knees and crawl into the handball courts. And people would leave their unused, racquetballs in the courts. And so me and my friends would crawl into the handball courts, grab the handball, and then crawl back out. One day when I crawled back out, I was met by Scary Man. Scary Man looked at me and said, "You little thief." I never felt so bad in my life. I just wanted a ball to play with my friends, and he called me a thief. I didn't like the idea of being called a thief, and it registered with me. To this day, I can still see Scary Man looking at me, calling me a little thief. Even though today I could probably kick his butt. Number four was the word discipline. Discipline was something written on the board by one of my teachers when I was in grade school. Mind you, the teacher was the music teacher, and he also taught us English. But one day he stopped teaching, and he just wrote that word on the board, and he said discipline. And he started to tell us about discipline, not as it pertained to English, not as it pertained to studying an instrument, but as it pertained to your life. I never forgot that. I never forgot that he stopped class in order to talk about something that had nothing to do with the subject matter. That was the most meaningful teaching experience that I can remember. And I use that as a model for what I do as well. Anybody who takes gospel choir knows that I will stop class and begin to talk about complete non sequiturs that somehow end up relating back to the subject matter. When I was a little older in high school, my band director said this phrase: "More time to do something is more time to do nothing." We were complaining about how busy we were as high school students. We have all these homework, we have to play our instruments, we have to practice, we have to do chores, blah, 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 blah. And he said, well, we were talking about how we wish we had more time. He said, well, more time to do something is actually more time to do nothing. If you had more time, you wouldn't fill it with other things to do. You'd actually sit around and do nothing. Truest thing ever said to me. Here's where we get to the hard part. Those first five phrases I just told you, they had an immediate effect on me. But the long-term effect wasn't so good. Because while I didn't abuse cigarettes, and while I didn't abuse alcohol, and while I didn't consider myself to be a thief, I ended up embodying all those things with food. I spent most of my life battling weight and health. I found out that I was a diabetic when I was 20 years old. I grew to be 345 pounds by the time I was 30 years old, and I was only getting bigger. And I had this lack of fear of death and lack of fear for my health, which strongly concerned me, especially since I was a gospel choir director and all I ever talked about was surrender and celebrating life and and trusting. And I had none of those things for myself. And I found that even though I had not abused those other substances, I learned something about myself, that I use food to deal with stress. It is a revelation that I still struggle with daily. However, I do stand before you 140 pounds lighter, and I've kept that weight off for 5 years, and I take life one day at a time. But it was only because of those first five phrases: discipline, More time to do something is more time to do nothing. Don't drink, don't smoke, you little thief. That's all of those things played a role by the time I was about 30 years old in shaping my ability to surrender and allow myself to be able to focus on my health. Being able to focus on my health and be more present in my life, present in my teaching, present in my family, present in my work, allow me to go on and do the things that I really want to do, which is teaching and music. One of the most polarizing statements I ever heard a choir member say once was, "It's not just about the music." This happened after a concert, and she came up to me with tears in her eyes, and she said, "You know, what we do, it's not just about the music." What she was referring to was the fact that music, regardless of whether it's gospel or not, has a spiritual and emotional effect on its listeners and can transform them, whether there's words attached or not. And I kind of already knew that, but I didn't have the authority and the responsibility behind that. I kind of just played music. However, when I got it into my head that this actually was true, I began to embody that in my teaching and embody that in how I became a gospel choir director and the other kinds of music that I do outside of gospel music. After I put those things into practice, these are the kind of comments that I would get from kids whenever I would take the choir on tour. I realized that taking my choir to different places outside of the educational environment, into the urban cities, into homeless shelters, veteran shelters, prisons, and of course schools, began to shape and change the way people appreciated life. And this statement that was said to us after a performance was a kid who was never even dreamed he could go to college, but after seeing the choir perform, said, "Wow, now I want to go to college." These are things that transform the lives, not just of the kid who said that, but the people who were hearing it and that were actually participating in the choir. Number 9, having a little girl greet you with open arms at 2 years old and say, "Papa's home," is pretty much the coolest thing ever. You can't, I mean, unless of course you're a mother and it's mama's home. She is the love of my life, and she transformed my life. And even when I'm not at my best for myself, I have another excuse to be good and to be good to myself, and that's her. And of course, lastly, my wife. The two words that transformed my life for the last 18 years, I can tell you that finding someone special in your life, whether it's a friend or whether it's a personal relationship that involves romance, can be a very heart-wrenching, troubling thing, but it can also be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. And of course, without my wife, I wouldn't have my daughter. And just a small piece of advice before I sing a song for you. You may question whether you know that you found the one, that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. I learned and I knew that my wife was the one, not just when she said I do, but when I realized that when we said till death do us part, I realized that forever was too short. I realized that being with her forever wasn't long enough. And I said, wow, I've never been able to conceive eternity before, but with her, I can. I struggle with issues, as I presented you in a brief amount of time. I also put words together. I remember things that happened to me in my life, and I shape those things to be the story of my life. Those who know me also know I have an affectation for Superman and everything Superman. I'm going to sing a song for you right now called "I'm Not Superman." It's true, I was sent here from another place and from above to dwell among the human race. My Father loved me so, He gave my spirit grace and gave me earthly parents so that they could raise a man with special powers to help this fellow man, these things that I can do, I don't quite understand. It's true, sometimes I'm strong and sometimes I save the day. My story sounds familiar, but I need to say that I'm not Superman. That's just a fairy tale, and I will surely fail if I'm not who I am. The only hero I can be. I like to help my brother when he's feeling down, and I like to help my sister when no one is around. But I'm not always able, please don't depend on me. Let me take off my glasses so you can clearly see that I'm not Superman. I do the best I can, but I'm only human, a part of a greater plan. It's the reason why I'm here, and all of the miracles that you see is something greater working through me, and it's the source of everything I do, and it flows through everything and through you. So please don't be surprised by my abilities. My only real disguise should be humility. It's true, sometimes I'm strong and sometimes I save the day. And it's true, sometimes I long to up and fly away. No, I'm not Superman, the only hero